Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I am Coach Sherri, and this channel is about workforce development, career readiness, entrepreneurship, real life, real issues, and real talk. And today, as you can see, I am day 14 of 60 days going live. I had 30 plus days up before, and I changed it to 60. I was thinking about it the other day. I was adding up how many years I have been on YouTube. I know a lot of amazing content creators. They will say, "Oh, I've been on YouTube for 10 years," or the ones that have been growing fast and furious, they'll say, "I've been on YouTube for 6 months or 3 years or 1 year." And I knew that I had been on for many, many years. And I went to my About page or my About tab and I looked and I said, wow, I've been on YouTube for quite a long time. And when I say I've been on for quite a long time, I was definitely not a content creator at the beginning for many years. I was a supporter. I came to YouTube as a resource, but I have been on YouTube. It will be I will be Sweet 16 coming up in June. So I said, I'm going to do something dynamic going into my Sweet 16. So instead of just 30 days, I'm going to do 60. So I'm going to go live every day for the month of April and the month of June, leading up to my Sweet 16 in June. So this topic today is going to be about mastering the interview, pro tips and techniques. And hi, Marlene. Thank you for being here. Yes, I'm going to do 60 days. Yes, I am. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate the support. And so I am going to be talking about the interview. Now, I am a certified career coach. I have been career coaching for over 15 years, I want to say. I started out with EQ at work, and now it's with the National Career Development Association. And I love career coaching. It actually spun into career coaching after I started out as a marketing coach for small businesses, nonprofit organizations, and people that were just starting out in their business. And it evolved to life coaching, which is why EQ at work was so important, that emotional intelligence piece. And then it spun into career coaching because career and business to me is one and the same. Whether you work for someone or work for yourself, your integrity, your values, your level of work ethic, it needs to be the same. So many people think, oh, because they work for someone else, they can slack. Well, one day you may work for yourself, and would you want your employees to slack? So I always say you need to work how you would want your employees to work. Show up how you want your employees to show up. And when you do that, you'll find a huge difference and be very productive and satisfied with the outcomes. I see California Ford 44. Thank you for being here. Great to see you this evening. Thank you for the like. Okay, not a problem. The great thing about YouTube is everything is recorded. If you'd like, you can come back and check out the replay, but I appreciate you for popping in and saying hello. Thank you. Thank you, Marlene, for greeting as well. Yes. So with interviews, a lot of people I find are, they always say how nervous they are. And one thing you don't want to say during your interview is that you're nervous. That's a given. But there are two types of nerves that you can work through for your interview. So of course you're going to have that nervousness. Your blood may increase. The blood flow. You might have some external signals like maybe sweaty hands, maybe you turn red, maybe You turn cold. It just all depends. But you'll have those external things that go on with your body that will you can recognize as nerves. But when I say you need to practice every day, it's because every day in some form or fashion you are on an interview. You are being interviewed even by people that you can't see, because the people that see you, they are your, second degree of separation from that next person, that next opportunity. And you never know, they may leave you after seeing how you move, how you operate, how you conduct yourself, your posture, and go to someone else and say something about you in a positive way. Like, oh, you should see this person. I just saw them present, or I just saw a project they were working on and how professional they were and how well of a team player they were. And it's a person that you had never laid eyes on, that never laid eyes on you, but they may, because of that conversation, find an interest in you. And that's why I tell people every day you are on an interview, because it's not just the people you see that you're doing your best for, it's the people you don't see. Absolutely. So Marlene is saying, when I was interviewing, I used to never know what to say when they say, tell me about your flaws. And so this is why, this session is going to be so dynamic, Marlene, because I'm definitely going to go over the best way to answer every type of question that will definitely showcase your core competencies. And, I feel like since this is Sunday, and you could be watching this on a Monday, a Saturday, a Wednesday, because it will be available for replay. But any day, but I always know for Sunday, you may be on the eve of a very important job interview. And that eve can be on any day. But if you are, I want to just say congratulations, because that means that your resume and application attracted the employer to you enough to invite you in for a conversation. And when I do coaching sessions, and if people say, I've applied to so many jobs and I hadn't heard anything, at that point, I know it's probably their resume. And so that's when we do a resume review and revision. But if they say, I've applied to so many jobs, I've gotten great interviews, I thought I did well, but after the interview, I didn't hear anything back, then at that moment, I know it was probably their interview skills or lack thereof. So, like I was getting ready to start saying about practice and the importance of practicing every day, so that when you get that shot, when you get into that game and the ball is thrown to you, that when you take that shot, you will make it. And your interview is that opportunity for you to take that shot. So when people say that they are nervous, I get it. Now you have that nervousness because maybe you're not prepared and you don't know how to answer the questions. You're afraid of the types of questions they may ask you, and you don't know, you just don't want to fumble the ball when it's given to you. And you feel that's what you're going to do because you're just not really prepared. Some people will try and prepare the night before, the day before the interview, and I say that's too late. Now, you should have nervousness, absolutely, but the nervousness that you should experience on your interview is an excitement nervousness. If you have played any sport or if you know any athlete, you will know when they have a big game, they practice, they prepare for that game. They know who is on their schedule at the beginning of the season, and they practice in different ways to prepare for those teams that they are going to play against. They practice so well, they know the team's moves. They know what move they're going to counteract so that they can come off as the victor in that moment and for the game ultimately. And so that's why when you practice every day for that next game, and especially when you know that next game is this particular interview, it's this particular company, it's this particular position, then you should be customizing your practices specifically for that. So when it's time to play, when it's time for your interview, yes, you are nervous, but you are so nervous because you're excited because you've been preparing for this moment, and you know that no matter what they ask you, you're going to be prepared, and when you are throwing that ball, your hands are going to be ready and you're going to pivot and shoot and make that shot. And the only way you can do that is with practice, not the day before, but all along. So all along, you should be practicing how you would answer certain questions. Marlene mentioned the question about tell me about your flaws. Some questions may be tell me about your weaknesses or your strengths or anything. But all along, you're thinking about that. But when you get that particular interview with that company, you need to research that company, understand what that position entails. And if you don't know everything about that company, if there are some gray areas, if there are some things that you may see on their website that's just kind of like, I'm not quite sure what that is, those are the questions that you'll have for them. So remember to ask them questions too. So, with this session, I'm going to go over effective ways on how to answer questions and so that you can master that interview. All right. I am so excited to share this because so many people don't know what will they say. And I always say that again, every day is an interview. You should always recall the great things that you've done and think how you will confidently share that information with others. You know, a lot of times when you leave an interview, if you have not practiced effectively, you leave, and then that's when you start remembering different things of what you could have said. You'll be like, oh man, I should have said this, or oh, this would have been better. Or even later on, when you are talking it over with your friends and family, when they say, well, how did the interview go? And you tell them about some of the questions, and they may remind you, well, did you tell them about this time? And then you're like, oh, I forgot about that. Well, if you practice every day, and especially utilizing these steps that I'm going to share with you, you won't ever have to worry about walking away wondering or wishing that you would have said things because it will all be at the top of your mind. That's why practice is so, so important. So, confidence is important, and you have to learn how to get comfortable with not watering down your skills and experiences. You know, a lot of people can talk about their children, a form of technology, a vacation, a car, a community, an event. But when it comes to tell me about yourself or tell me about your skills or an experience, people start to flub around and they don't know what to say. They get confused. They get, nervous because they hadn't practiced. And you should be able to talk about you and your experiences better than anything or anyone. So you should not know more about a platform or a piece of technology equipment or a car and how it works more than you know about your core competencies and your skills and how you work. And you should effectively, confidently be able to say it, especially during an interview. So do not water down your skills and experiences. You know what you know, and you've done what you've done. There's no apology needed. If those experiences have equipped you with skills that make you capable to do what you do or do what you strive to do, then you need to be able to explain that. You may hear me say again, practice every day. So you have to practice every day. All right. This is your playoff game, and you need to win this game to get to the next one. Times are competitive. So a lot of times, especially if you're going for upper level positions, those interviews are not going to be one and done. You can have upwards of 3 to 5 interviews with different people and at different places and times doing different things. Some interviews may require you to do a presentation. Some may require you to do a writing sample, on the spot writing sample. So you need to be prepared to do any of those things. Some interviews may be one-on-one, some may be panel, some may be in person, some may be virtual. Either way, you need to show up in your best self. So for my clients, I typically provide them with a worksheet that will help them capture the information that will remind them, be their mind joggers for all of those great things that they've done, that also highlights their transferable skills. It's a great worksheet. They really appreciate it. It helps them remember and recall things from back in the day that, are still relevant for today that they can use as examples for the interview. But what I'm going to share with you is the technique to help you answer the questions more effectively. And the technique that I coach is called the STAR technique. And if you've heard of the STAR technique, please be sure to put that in the comments. I would love to know if you are familiar with the STAR technique or the STAR method, and that's the effective way to answer interview questions. And I'll pause right here to see if anyone has ever heard of it, if you practice using it, or have never heard of it before. Just let me know in the chat. Okay, I'm going to continue on. So I'm going to let you know how the STAR method works. And I promise you, this right here is a game changer. Now, I always believe that interview panel, those are the people, maybe the employer, the hiring managers, recruiters, they need to know this method inside out. Unfortunately, many don't. However, when a candidate answers questions utilizing this method, they are always blown away. And I've been on many, many interview panels. And when I recognize that an applicant or a candidate is answering the questions, all of the questions within this way, I'm like, yeah. And even at the end, when we debrief, they're like, wow, they really, I believe they can do the job. I believe they can absolutely do what we need them to do. And when I go over this, you may say to yourself, I kind of answer the questions like that. That's about right. But it's more powerful when you can put a name to it. So it's more than just doing it, but it's also realizing you're utilizing a technique, a method. And so it is called the STAR method. And so a lot of times when you have a panel, which 9 times out of 10, it depends if it's a large organization, but if it's a small organization, they may not have enough people. However, a lot of organizations are also utilizing their partnerships, their stakeholders to sit on panels as well, just to get the different perspectives. But most panels will have 3 to 4 people, and they have those amount of people because they want to get the different perspectives. And when you use the STAR method, you will actually be speaking to each personality on that panel. Because for some people, they're most interested in the what. What was the problem? And then there are some people on the panel that might be interested in the who and your position at that time during that situation. Then there are some people that are interested in the how and what steps were taken. And some people are interested in the outcome and your results. So there are 4 personalities. Any type of personality assessment or training that you may have gone to, there's always 4 different types of personalities. We have 4 seasons. We have 4 quarters in a year. There's something to that number 4. And so when you are responding, utilizing the STAR technique, as you can see, the word STAR has 4 letters. You will be speaking to all 4 different types of personalities. Because if you've been on a interview panel, and if someone is responding to a question and it's just a canned response, meaning it's no meat to it, you can't really figure out that person, 9 times out of 10, they may be only speaking to one, if any, body on that panel. And that's why, when a candidate like that leaves the interview and the debrief happens, excuse me, got tongue tied. If the debrief happens and 3 out of the 4 people on the panel might say, I don't know what they were talking about, because they never said anything that addressed or addressed their personality. So again, with the STAR technique, you will touch on every personality. So let's get into it. And I hope you have your pen and paper ready. I'm going to take a sip of water real quick. I hope you have your pen and paper to capture these notes. All right. So the first one is, let me get it. The first is the situation. So again, this is the STAR technique, and the S is situation. So you want to set the scene and stage and give the necessary details of your example. So any question that is asked, even down to your name, you can utilize the STAR technique. Even with your name, say my name. I would say, my name is Sherri, and the situation was my mother and father thought they weren't going to have any more children. My brothers were 8 and 9 years older than me. And my mother's mother passed away a year before, exactly a year before I was born. But she told my mother that she was going to have another baby and it was going to be a girl and she should name her my name. And that's the situation. All right. And so then you want to go into this includes specific projects, challenges, events, or issues. So you can also go into a project. If you could even talk about something that was not work related. If they say, tell me about a time when you had to work with a team, you could talk about your family reunion. You can say, I there was a situation where my family reunion was going to be held in my city, and my family is not originally from my city. However, we decided to host it in that city. And so, with the situation, since I lived there, I had to be the one that spearheaded the planning. All right. And so that's the situation. So they already know, okay, that person had a family reunion with, what is your name? Okay, there is that situation. She obviously has two older siblings. Her grandmother passed away before she was born. It's giving them some background. It's like a play. I always look at the situation as a play. It's the stage. How is the stage set up? What is going on? What are these little details that's happening here? What are the examples? So that's what that is, the situation. The second is the task. So remember, it's the STAR technique, and we're mastering the interview. So these are some pro tips and techniques. So the task is the T in STAR, and you want to describe your responsibility or role. What was your role in the situation? What were tasks? What tasks were you trying to achieve? And why were you part of that? And this helps the interviewer understand what the direct objectives was from your perspective. So again, if you want to use the example of a family reunion, the situation was that it was going to be held in your city. Your family is not originally from that city, but since you live there, you were tasked to spearhead the events and the planning, and to really make sure that the event went off without a hitch. So that's what your task. You were a member of that family, and that's why you were doing it. But you can think about any other project or event or situation, challenge that you've ever encountered over the course of your life. It could even be if you played sports and maybe you had a dynamic season where you went into the playoffs. What were some of the things that you had to do as a team? Think of all these things and what your role was in those situations. And see, another reason why this is so powerful is because it's proven that you were there and involved. A lot of times, people may have been there, they may have been in the building when it was happening, and they'll try and use that on their resume that they were part of it because they had seen it. But if they weren't in the weeds with it, they don't really know the steps that it took. They don't really know the full scope of it. But if you really were part of it, you should be able to utilize the STAR technique to answer the question. So that's number two, the task. Number three is the action. And so a personality that would be really interested in the action would be someone that is really process they're into process improvement. They are, very organized and structured in the type of work that they do, and so the actions it takes to get something done is really important to them. And the actions explains exactly what steps you took to address the situation. And so again, it ties all back to the start, the situation. Be sure to detail each step you took, focusing on your involvement. Highlight any specific skills or techniques you employ to tackle the task. Now, I recommend that you number them. And as an example, I would say, let's use the example of the event planning. You can say, first, I did some research on different places that the family could stay in terms of a hotel, and then I looked for different venues to host the formal event and activities for all age groups. The second thing I did was I delegated different responsibilities to people in my family. Some did live near or in the city, and so I was able to delegate to them different parts of the of doing the event. And then third, I made sure that we had updates on a monthly basis and on a weekly basis as we got closer to the event. And finally, I made sure that everything was tied together, that everything was in place. And, that's how you tie in all of that with the actions. So it's more than just saying, oh, I had my family get together and, we put something together and it turned out great. No. And I want you to consider actions for anything you've done. If you managed a project, how did you manage that project? Did you collaborate with other professionals in your organization, or did you have to collaborate with consultants or external vendors? Did you have to do any type of deep dive research, some due diligence to make sure that this was a project that was going to be viable for your company? You want to go into all this information at the action step. What actions did you take? Not what actions someone else took, which again is, you being in that corner just watching someone, but what actions did you actually take? All right. Let me see. I see there's a comment. Slasher Chick is in the building. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that and for speaking to everyone. And I started your live. Slasher Chick is on this journey with me. And I'm going to go back to capture some more of that information because this is VIP day right here. Thank you for being here. All right. So that is number 3. So now we're going into number 4, and number 4 is the results. All right. So you want to share what outcomes your actions achieved. Now, it's important to quantify your success. So, for example, you may say, if you're talking about something you did at work, you can say, I increased retention by 30%, or improved processing time by 20%. If we're talking about the family reunion event, you can say, attendance for the family reunion increased by 45%, for that year. More people came out for the family reunion than ever before. And you want to highlight lessons learned. And lessons learned are things of like what you want to continue doing moving forward, and or what you can do better next time. Results don't always have to be something good. They can also be, maybe it didn't work out, and why didn't it work out? Sometimes when things don't work out, people just drop the ball and say, well, I don't want to revisit that again. But sometimes when it doesn't work out, it all the time really, it's always good to debrief and figure out, all right, it didn't work out, and why, and what should we have done differently. And so next time, this is what we're going to make sure is in place. It might be more advanced planning. It could be maybe you needed a few more people on the project to make sure it was a success. You needed more hands on deck, whatever that is, because those are the skills and those are the things that you're bringing with you. No one can ever take those away from you. Those are the things you're absolutely going to be bringing with you to your next situation. So again, this is the STAR method, and this method is so powerful because it shows that again, you weren't just in the building. When this happened, it proves that you were actually part of the process. You were part of it. And it's a demonstration of your core competencies, and these are what you bring with you. Your core competencies, your key skills, those are all transferable with you, no matter how long ago you did it to how recent you did it. Those are things that you are bringing with you. And employers look at it like, if you did it before, you can do it again. If you did it for them, you can do it for us. So they will see how your experiences align with what they need. And that is so important, to make sure that when you are responding, and that's where your research comes ahead of time, to know what the organization is, what the position involves. And when you use those examples, you're aligning it with what they will need, so they can absolutely see you doing it. And again, that's the STAR technique. If you have an upcoming interview, I wish you all the best. I hope you have a good time. Have a good time with it. I always tell people, and if I am on an interview panel and we have people come in, the first thing I say after I introduce myself is, just relax. This is a conversation. We want to get to know you a little bit better, and you are going to ask us, hopefully, questions to get to know us better too. That's a time for you to let your hair down. They're also looking to see if you're going to be a good fit with the culture. If you are communicative in a way that aligns with how they like to communicate, and just a good fit overall. So definitely look at it as a conversation more than a question answer. In regular conversations, we ask each other questions and we have no problems answering. So look at an interview just like that. I love questions. When I do presentations, when I'm on a panel, I love it when people ask questions, because that just opens me up to answer things that maybe I forgot to even put into my presentation. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is how it is. I love to get more specific. That's what a question is. So that's all I have for you for the STAR method. I hope that you were able to glean a nugget. If you don't mind, in the chat, and if you're looking at this in the replay, if you can put it in the comment section, what is your one nugget when you look at the STAR technique? And I'll go back through. The first is the situation. The second is the task. The third is action. The fourth is results. So when you are mastering the interview, which one right now do you feel would be the easiest for you? What is the one that you're going to focus on? You want to focus on all four for sure. Maybe one of them you were already doing, or one or two, but you want to do all four. So what is that nugget that you're going to take away from this mastering the interview pro tips and techniques? If you can put that in the comment section. I know I gave you all a lot to think about. And who was it? I was on a live earlier, and the person said, at the end of this live, if you could, let what you just heard marinate, and go back to the comments, after the live, and write in the comments. So don't even worry about the chat. Write in the comments after this live is over what you thought about this session, about mastering the interview, and what is your one nugget from it. So yeah, I'm gonna let this all marinate, because sometimes it can be a bit much, I know. But I appreciate you all for tuning in. And again, if you do have an upcoming interview, I wish you the best. Good luck. Be prepared. Practice. Start practicing now. It's never too late to start practicing, but it's so much easier if you continue to practice all along. And until next time, stay safe. I am Coach Sherri.